So back in the day when I was still a very young university student, I took a part in an anthropology course, and it was our task in that course to describe and to analyze human crania. In other words, human skulls, head bones, right? So each one of us students got a cranium, a head bone, a skull, and we were supposed to analyze it. And we also got an assignment and questions to answer. And I remember quite well when the professor came in with a trolley with I don't know how many human remains and bones on it. Before he actually handed them out to the class, to us students, he said the following, and I'm not going to quote. He says, treat those human remains with respect. These were all once people who had a more or less happy life. I leave it up to you to interpret what it means to be respectful. This is also what he said. And this is where the surprising part comes, do not take a lighter and hold it into the head bone, into the skull, so that it starts to glow nicely. Don't do that. And I remember I was sitting there, what? What? Who would do that? I mean, who was going to take a lighter and put it into a skull and then light it up so that it looks like a Halloween pumpkin, you know? That's crazy. Now, I think evidently some students have done this already before, and he, understandably and rightly so, he did not like that. Yeah. So he kind of pre-warned us that we should treat those human remains with respect. Okay, so basically he handed out all of those skulls, and each one of us ended up with one, and I was looking at it, and the first thing that I came to realize is, wow, this thing is pretty light. It was really surprisingly light. I'm a biology teacher now, so we have a plastic skeleton in our biology room, and if you take the skull, it's pretty heavy. It's made of solid plastic, very heavy. But the one that I had in the hand at that time, wow, considering the size, it weighs nothing really, right? This was the first realization I had, and I looked at it like this, and wow, nice teeth. Really, evidently was brushing his or her teeth quite well. Yeah, so this is also something I noticed, and then I was looking at it and kind of, wow, interesting. This looks very real, you know. It's kind of not so artificial as a plastic model, obviously, right? So in that sense, it's quite a unique feeling a little bit to have this head bone, the skull in front of you, like here, yeah, and kind of looking at the teeth. Yeah, normally you don't look at somebody else's teeth that closely, but this was kind of something where it's kind of intimate, really, you know. In any case, I started to answer the questions. Then we had to kind of estimate the age of the person. There's a way to do that by having a look on how much the different parts have grown together. The so-called the fissures where the two bones connect. How grown together is it? That's one thing. You can look at the teeth a little bit, how basically to estimate the age, and also depending a little bit on the proportions, you can also kind of guess a little bit, guesstimate whether it was a man or a woman. And the professor kept on always repeatedly saying that's a very difficult thing to do because there's such a big overlap, and sometimes you cannot really say whether it was a man or a woman. Okay, so this is kind of the thing, and I was kind of writing down the answers on a sheet, and then I was kind of describing it, and says, yeah, interesting thing here, maybe a man, okay, and then yeah, there's a little hole in the head as well, and so on, and then there's a little hole in the head. Right? A little hole. What do you mean? Kind of looking over. Look, mine has a hole. Does yours have a hole? Why is there a hole in the head? That's not supposed to be there. A skull is not supposed to have a hole. It's just some kind of a weird anatomical thing here. And then I realized all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I mean, this could be a bullet hole, right? This could be a bullet hole, or maybe some kind of another injury, you know. So this is something that I kind of realized all of a sudden, you know, and then wow, this was actually a real person. You see, it kind of you start to realize this on a different level all of a sudden. Of course, it was a real person, yeah, but then all of a sudden you kind of realize this was a real person, yeah, who possibly died on this head injury. So it gives you a totally different connection all of a sudden, or at least me. Okay, and from that point on, carefully put it down, and I kind of, kept on answering the questions that we got here, right? So why am I sharing this to you? Is this because when we're what I don't know. I have a difficulty in putting this into words here. If you want to work on analyzing human remains, maybe it's not only in medicine, maybe where people, med students are dissecting people, right? But also in forensics, when experts are called to a crime scene and they have to, yeah. A friend of mine was basically working for the Red Cross, and he was basically involved in traffic accidents, right, and with casualties. And you see, if you're getting too much emotionally involved, you cannot do your job, right? So there has to be a form of certain necessary emotional distance. Otherwise, you're not able to do the task that you're supposed to do. But what I claim now is that this emotional distance alone, that's not a sign of disrespect. I think that's maybe a form of psychological protection that you need in order to actually do the job. But at the same time, it's not a sign of disrespect. Okay. However, it's. I think we all agree, but that putting a lighter inside a skull so that it glows nicely like a Halloween pumpkin, this is disrespectful. And I kind of thought, and then later on, is why is that? Why is putting a lighter into a skull, making it glow? Why is this actually disrespectful? And having a healthy emotional distance is not. So where's this? Where is this line, so to say, where we say, okay, this is kind of crossing the line where it's not acceptable anymore. Where is this line? And I spent indeed some time thinking about it, and I think I might have found an answer. And the line is where we do not see this body part or the human remains, where we do not see them as human anymore, where they are being made into an object of our entertainment. So that's kind of the answer that I kind of, yeah. When you're kind of mocking it or kind of making fun of it, then you're not seeing this thing anymore as human, but as a means for our entertainment. It goes a little bit into Kantian ethics. You should always see the person for what he or she is, as an ends and never as a means, never as a means for entertainment, so to say. Yeah. So, and I think that is this could be the line, right? And this is, I think, also a very important distinguishing criterion where we actually can say, okay, this is basically still acceptable to have a healthy distance. Yeah, we do not have to become sad because of this hole in the skull here, or feel horrified, or no, oh my gosh, I'm so sad, and yeah, no, it doesn't have to depress us really, right? But I think the line is crossed there where we disrespect it for as a human being. And now that I have made this argument, and maybe you agree with me, I'm going to deconstruct it. I'm going to destroy my very own argument again. That's what I love doing. First, I build up something, right? And then I end up destroying my very own argument. And what I claim out now is the following. I'm going to give the counter argument to my own argument is as follows. Well, that's only under quotation marks, the material, the physical substance. We humans are actually much more than just the physical body. Yeah. So what's the problem, really? It's only a skull. It's only calcium carbonate. It's not a human being. Because that what makes a human being is not the physical material, but it's the, how do you call it? The mental, the psychology, the identity, or maybe, I don't know. The spiritual, how do you call this? The metaphysical, maybe. Okay, the non-material part. Yeah, who we are as humans, right? And this is, of course, not present in the skull. That's only the material part. It's not human, and I cannot mock something or make fun of something which is not human. That's the thing. So essentially, if I hold a lighter into this skull here, making fun of it, I'm not really turning a human into an object because it was not a human in the first place, because a skull is not a human. I'm getting too philosophical here. Do you see what I mean? So what I would like to ask you to do is write down your own opinion. I'd like to hear it. I really don't know. I don't have an answer to this. I'm still thinking a little bit of where I am in here, but maybe you can share your own view here a little bit. Is what does it actually mean to be human? Isn't it kind of weird? We we started off with an anthropology lesson of human skulls, and then ended up with the question, what does it actually mean to be human? I'd like to hear your view. Wish you all the best. Have a nice day.